Let's bring in Nilay Patel, talk about what this may mean. I do see, Nilay, that the headline on The Verge says a major win for Epic Games and Fortnite. That makes some sense. I guess the larger question is whether it's a major loss for Apple itself.
You know, I think it is in a narrow sense that the App Store revenue model is under threat here. That 30% cut, particularly from games, is the driver of Apple's services business. But I think fundamentally, Apple has a huge opportunity to monetize other parts of the App Store ecosystem. And if this spurs them to do that, it will be a win in the long term for that business.
And Nilay, what do you think the implications are for Google? I was just raising that in the Google Play Store. There have been some stories that The Verge and others have done recently on the kind of level of bureaucracy and control that Google's been able to exercise there. And then, I mean, big moment for the gaming industry, right? There are so many major game application makers that have been trying to turn themselves into platforms. And this strikes me as a big, bright green light for them to accelerate on that front.
Yeah, you know, on the gaming front specifically, a very funny sort of C-plot of this trial was the back and forth trying to define what a game was and whether Roblox was a game or a store within a game or a metaverse. And the judge just eventually got tired of it. And you can kind of see that. This order is a sweeping win for Apple. Apple's not a monopoly. Apple won most of the counts. Epic won where it mattered, which is the anti-steering rule and the provision of third-party payment options in the store. So I think Epic's probably happy there. But what's a game? Is the game industry, can they do commerce inside of their universes? Wide open, but there's still, at least on the Apple platform, still some questions. On the Google front, what is very different between these two cases is that Google runs a platform, like an operating system with contracts with third parties. They use their leverage inside of that industry against handset makers, against the carriers, to protect Android. That is a very different situation than Apple saying, we make the phone, we make the operating system, play by our rules. So there's a lot more evidence in the Google case that Google acts like a monopoly. So what you might find in that case is the judge not only rules that anti-steering has to go, but that Google has been acting like a monopoly with Android, which she absolutely did not find with Apple. So I think there's a big split in how these two platforms might be managed in the future.
But it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Nilay, that you're saying what I was trying to say, and you have better authority, I think, to say it, which is that if this is bad for Apple, it's probably bad for Google, too, if things continue to head in this direction. You just seem to be saying it might be even worse given everything else that they're also up against.
Yeah, the simplest way to think about this is, how does Apple maintain control over the iPhone and iOS? Well, they just operate as a business. Right, you can't say that Apple's executives are exerting monopoly control over Apple software engineers. Like that it's nonsensical. And I think we've kind of talked about that with the Apple case a lot. How does Google maintain control over the Android ecosystem? Well, they do stuff that kind of looks like monopoly control, right? They enter into favorable agreements. Those agreements have paper trails. They put pressure on all facets of the ecosystem to make sure that it comes out in their favor. We've seen that over and over and over again. That paper trail and that actual exertion of pressure on the ecosystem might break worse for Google in the long run.